You're listening to the VORTX Podcast, featuring interviews with your favorite artists. Here's your host, Ethan Jackson.
Hey, it's Ethan hanging out today with our special guest, Tim Montana, my man. You're in Montana right now, and you just showed me that view outside your porch. It's beautiful.
Yeah, man, the Big Hole River is right behind me, as you can see. There's birds up here feeding babies, man. There'll be elk bugling, wolves howling. I love it out here. We're right outside of a town of 44 people. If I leave my house, there's no cell service for 12 miles in that direction and about 50 miles that direction.
Yeah.
And I love
that is
it.
wild. 44 people. Something funny. A lot of times bands they'll go out of their way to go to a cabin or whatever in the middle of nowhere to record their record to kind of find some peace, but you're like already there, which I think is great.
My producer's actually here this week because we wrote half the songs on Savage in a little 1800s cabin in my driveway that's on the river. So we took over the cabin again this week and got the Pro Tools rig set up. So we're gonna write and record a bunch of music this week. So it's just so peaceful and not having distractions and just waking up and seeing the sunrise and the critters running everywhere. It's just, man, it's my best spot to write in.
Oh, for sure. Now, are you guys working on like next album material or like deluxe edition stuff?
Well, I have to write all the time.
Yeah.
So, I have a publishing deal, so I'm required to write X amount of songs a year. But I get so damn busy that I have to like fly people in to lock me down because I'm running the restaurant, the hot sauce company, and touring and music, and I'm doing so much. And I got 4 kids, and so then I'm like, all right, if I fly my producer here and he's holed up in a cabin in the driveway, we'll get stuff done. So this will likely be next record material. When this record's not even out, we're gonna start writing for the next one. So
that's how it goes.
Yeah.
Speaking of, Savage due out on July 12th, man. I've had the record for a couple of weeks now, and easily one of my favorite records of the year. And I'm not just saying that. It's kind of refreshing because rock is in such a weird place right now where you have to have so much. It seems like you have to have so much extra with it, and this is just more of a straight up rock and roll record. And that's something that I really appreciated, was kind of refreshing.
Trying to bring guitar rock back, man. We just cranked up some amps and went heavy with it. And me and Micah did all the guitars on it. We had a feature by Chris Shiflett on Die Today.
Yeah.
But aside from that, it's me and Micah Wilshire, my producer, did all the guitar work and singing and backgrounds, and very organic, if you will, because it was just kind of him and I, and then we brought a drummer in after the fact. And so we're excited.
Absolutely. You mentioned Chris. What was the thought process on getting him on? Chris Shiflett from the Foo Fighters, of course, on Die Today.
I just wanted a feature. There was that big kind of bow now break in the song, and I just wanted one feature. I didn't want this album to be full of features, so I was like, let's get one that's cool, that has a connection to me, and I've been friends with Chris for several years. And so I texted him, and he didn't see the text for 3 weeks, and then he responded and he goes, "Hey dude, is it too late?" And I'm like, "No," even though the record was like mastered and ready to go. So, I'm like, "No, not at all. Can you record today?" And he sent me one version of the solo, and I'm like, "That's perfect." He's like, "What do you want it to sound like?" I'm like, "Alice in Chains." Jerry Cantrell, and he knocked it out of the park. So
absolutely. Now that song lyrically kind of honors like special operators a little bit. Can you tell me a little bit about why that is so important to you?
Yeah, I've been a military supporter my whole life. Grew up around it. Grandfather was in the Marine Corps. I mean, I've got a lot of different family that served. And I just think it's our duty to serve those that serve us. And we started my American Thread charity, and we've raised over $1.1 million. And we're all volunteer based. We don't take a dime. Covered 8 scholarships for kids of fallen soldiers 1 year because we had some big TV exposure, and a donor donated $200,000. So we've done some real good in the community. And when I had that title, Die Today, I was singing that song for 2 years, and I didn't know what it was about. Is it a suicide song? What is it? And as I started writing it for the 11th time, I get a text from a British SAS officer that did some heroic stuff in Nairobi, Africa, where he stormed into a hotel by himself and saved 70 people and neutralized multiple terrorists in there, and had no idea what he was running into. He thought he was going to die. And so when this guy texted me, I'm like, oh, that's what Die Today is about. people that put their lives aside to save strangers. And so I wanted it to be, about the guys that don't quit, will run into danger, whether that's a firefighter or whether you're, pulling somebody out of a car wreck, people that do those heroic things. I think real heroes need to be celebrated more this day and age. And, people need to knock off all the noise because there's real heroes out there and they don't all wear capes, pal.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's great. One of my favorite songs on the record. Now I am curious, like you've been making music obviously for a long time. What, 15, 20 years
Yeah.
overall doing
My back hurts.
some country records, all that good stuff. I'm curious, like, is this the album that you've always wanted to make? Like, did you always want to go a little heavier, lean more into the rock stuff, or was this kind of a recent revelation?
No, this was something I've always been wanting to do, just didn't have a lane to do it in. And if you go back, only like 7, 8 years ago, I made an album called Tim Montana and the Shrednecks, and it is just loud, raw. I didn't have a good budget to record, so the audio quality is like okay, but it's been rocking. And recently, I played in St. Paul, and one of the guys that was in the band in Butte, Montana, that was like a rock band when I was a kid, and they all worked at the little record store in Butte. And I would always come in there like 13, 14 years old, just starstruck by these dudes because they played in a rock band. He came out to St. Paul and saw us on the Stain tour, and he went backstage and he's like, "I'm so glad you're doing this." He's like, "The Tim I know when he was a kid was like Alice in Chains and Slayer." And he's like, "I'm so glad you're back to doing this." He's like, "You're just good at it." And it was so cool to get a compliment from someone that I idolized, 20 years ago. For him to be like, "You're actually doing it, dude. This is wild." So that was a big moment for me just shoot a few weeks ago. So
That's rad. I know a lot of folks when they end up, making it at some point, they get people from their hometown that are like, "Hey, you got tickets?" That kind of thing. So I guess it's cool to get that, that compliment, like the whole "I'm proud of you" thing, rather than just asking you for crap.
no, I called him and wanted him to come backstage.
Yeah,
So I did get him passes, but he wasn't able to stay for staying to the other bands. He just wanted to see us play.
that's
But
awesome.
yeah, I used to go down to that record store called On Cue and just be like, "Hey guys, I want to be a rock star someday." And they're like, "Okay, kid." I was a
Yeah.
weird kid from north of town that lived in a single wide trailer that would wear cowboy boots and a Nirvana shirt and just terrorize the record store.
Would you just go to the record store and just kind of browse for a while and pick out stuff that looked cool? What was your
Yeah,
your method?
I didn't have a lot of money, so I just sitting there and I think you could listen to CDs, and they had cool rock and roll shirts, and all the musicians in town worked at On Cue in the mall. So I just spend anytime I could, I'd have my mom drop me off there and I'd just go browse through records and look at posters and try to find the new Hit Parader magazine.
That's awesome. Now you've mentioned Alice in Chains a couple of times, and Jerry
Yeah.
Cantrell, you're going out on tour with later this year, right? All on the Bush tour. How did that come together, and how excited are you to go out on the road with those guys?
I am more excited than I've ever been because that's Bush, Jerry Cantrell, and Candlebox. And I'm like, how did you guys put together my high school mix CD? like, we're just a Lincoln Park away from everybody on that CD. But yeah, that came out. Devil, started hitting the radio, and we started getting a lot of tour offers. And we got the Stains, Seether, and Saint Sonia tour that I just finished, and now we're going out with Bush, Jerry, and Candlebox. But grunge was like, I was definitely into Stain and Seether, and Saint Sonia is a new kind of version of the 3 Days Grace. So I listened to all those guys when I was a kid. But going out with grunge, like that was my jam. Like
Yeah.
Alice in Chains was my shit, right? Them and Nirvana. And a big Bush fan, big Candlebox fan, but Jerry's kind of my last hero I haven't met that's on my bucket
Okay.
list. So I'm going to have a hard time not just scooping him up and driving him up here to go fishing.
Do you still get starstruck every once in a while?
Yeah, I had an interesting one recently where the Sunset Marquis Hotel in Hollywood, if you've ever heard of that, it's the most rock and roll place on earth. And if you go to that restaurant in the hotel, you are pretty much 100% guaranteed to see a celebrity. And so I saw Morrissey in there and I was like, "Oh, that's cool." And then I go down for lunch and I'm sitting at the bar stool having a little lunch, and I look over and I'm like, "Holy Kevin Costner." And from the waist up, I was good, but my knees started clicking when I started talking to him because I'm a big fan of Dances with Wolves. I've only seen
Yeah.
that movie 100 times, being a Montana guy. And so he was very nice. And I just said, hey, I'm Billy Gibbons' business partner and the Whisker Bomb, and told him about the bar we have in Montana. And Kevin just bent my ear for about 5 minutes, was a very sweet guy. And I hope he didn't see my knees clicking.
That's awesome. People ask me all the time, they're like, do you still get nervous to do interviews and stuff? Because I've been doing this for a while now. And at this point, there's not a whole lot of starstruckness, but like there's a couple people, like I think if I ever had Dave Grohl on or, something like that, where,
Yeah.
you'd get a little nervous, but
Yeah. I was just with him at Rockville, and I got
oh
to go
yeah.
backstage. And I was standing back there with Matt Pinfield, and we're kind of waiting. Dave's visiting on the couches, and it's kind of that awkward moment of where you don't want to interrupt him. And I just hear Tin Montana, and he jumps over the couch and tackles me. And he comes up and he's like, bro, some lady was just in here that said you have a rock hit. And I'm like, yeah, that the devil, did pretty well. And he's like, what the dude? And he started like screaming, and it was great to have like my hero, hear about it, acknowledge it,
Yeah.
And I've got to hang out with those guys, fly on their jet. And Dave kind of took me under his wing 3 or 4 years ago. And he's just a regular dude that happens to be an iconic superstar. He's just a
Right.
very down to earth human being. So I love that about him.
Absolutely. Whenever those guys are in Kansas City, I don't know if you've heard of, you probably have, the Westboro Baptist Church. They're
Oh
here
yeah, they go over Aspen. Yeah.
yeah, they're actually from Topeka, and they drive the hour over to go, pick it or whatever. And Dave, they take the truck out and go sing in front of them on the street and all that stuff. It's always fun to watch.
Yeah, I've seen the videos of that. Dave is a very hilarious guy. He
Oh,
loves humor.
for sure. I can't believe Chris didn't tell him that you had a rock hit though. He just found out. No, that's great. That's awesome. You're playing Rocklahoma coming up Labor Day weekend as well. We've been giving away tickets to that. That'll be a fun one. What's cool for you about festivals?
Man, the festival scene is just really neat, and I get off on going out in front of audiences that don't know me. I'd rather do that than audiences that do know me, because I love watching them transition from like, who's this guy? Blah blah blah. Their arms are folded. Song 1, they're like, okay. Song 2, they're like, eh. Song 3, they're usually hands in the air, like, okay, bro.
Yeah.
So I love the festivals, the hang backstage, and I got to say, these rock festivals, people are so much nicer than when I was in the country world. There's, I don't know, there's like, I swear to God, there's more good old boys in rock and roll. I've heard more about farming, ranching, and agriculture backstage at these rock festivals than I ever have at country festivals.
That's funny. I feel like the rock world is very like not everybody's friends, but it's kind of like a big family a little bit. And maybe country's a
Very
little bit
much
more
so.
competitive. I don't know.
It
Maybe,
is,
yeah.
man. And
Yeah.
I have a theory. I think country's like this big of like what your song has to be about, what you look like. It's just like it has a mold, right?
Right.
And rock is so much wider that like you're not stepping on each other's toes as much, and it's more of a community because you get creative freedom to sing about what you want. You got Rob Zombie over here singing about this, and the Foo Fighters over here, and they're not right in each other's faces,
Right.
like commercial country music that is like this big. Like, this is what we sing about. This is how it sounds. Blah 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 blah. So everybody's competing with each other because the space is that small,
Yeah.
And yeah, but it's funny. Like, Bush's guitar player already messaged me on Instagram, and he's like ranching at a ranch in California, riding a horse, and I'm like, the hell? And then I'm talking to Shannon Guns about her husband from Mudvayne
Yeah.
and how he grew up rural and farming. And I'm like, this is so funny that all these rocker dudes are just like ranchers and farmers.
Well, it's wild. Is I think a lot of folks are like you, where they grew up listening to the grunge stuff, or even maybe some of the older bands grew up listening to Poison and Kiss and AC/DC, Guns N' Roses, and all that stuff. But because that's what they were influenced by, and maybe some of the old country stuff. But
Right.
the heavier stuff, it's something eats at rock folks. Where that heavier stuff kind of puts a bug in our ear.
Right.
But
Right. Totally.
no, it's cool. Rock festivals, I love being able to go, like, you get a band like Knocked Loose that's like all in your face, screaming, no clean vocals, whatever, and then get to come over and see somebody like you. That's really cool. You get exposed to a lot of different kinds of rock, which is something I appreciate about those festivals. But
Yeah, they're fantastic. So
you mentioned you're in business with Billy Gibbons. How the hell did you and Billy get together? I noticed that as soon as you hopped on today, I was like, okay, How did
I'm
how
like
did
I'm
you
like the
two?
I'm like the Billy Gibbons satellite office.
You're a
People
walking
come up and
billboard.
yeah, they're like, could you tell Billy this and that? And actually, the other day I got back from tour and I go in the bar and this guy comes in and he's like, I've been in the ZZ Top fan club since 1976. And I'm like, okay, I've heard that before. But then he comes in with Billy's business card from the 80s.
Oh my
And then he
God.
comes in with Dusty Hill's bolo tie. And then he comes in with a photo album with pictures of him and the band at VIP meet and greets from like way back when.
Right.
And I was like, all right, this checks out. So I call Billy and he's in the studio. I'm like, hey, man, these are like hardcore ZZ Top fans. Will you talk to him? And I said, yeah. He said, yeah, of course. So I went over there and tapped him. I said, hey, someone wants to say hi to you real quick. And watching these people, this woman's hand started shaking. And he's like, hey, guys, BFG, thanks for being a supporter for all these years. It was the cutest thing I've ever seen. Billy is such a genuine guy. And we met over this Beard Came Here to Party in 2013. I'd never met him. A friend of a friend got it to him. And he came and wrote it, allowed me to video record the session. It's on YouTube forever. If you look up This Beard Came Here to Party, that's me the first time I ever met my hero. And then it got licensed by the Boston Red Sox. They won the World Series. I started touring with ZZ Top. I've now done over 70 shows across North America with the band. They become like family. And then we started a hot sauce company called Whisker Bomb, and now we're doing barbecue and salsa. Then we had this opportunity to buy this 1800s lodge. That's why I moved back to Montana. The Wise River Club is open in late 1800s, and it's always had live music in the corner of the bar, and it's got a hotel, cabins, RV spots, and we just took it over last August. And Billy's already been up here once. He played LaGrange on stage during a Sunday afternoon brunch. All these
That's
cowboys
awesome.
are like, that's not him. And I'm like, do you see the tour bus outside? That's not an old tour bus. That is a brand new one. Do you see what
Right.
he's dressed like? And then he plays LaGrange, and this person's like, nah, it's not him. I'm like, I don't know who else would do a skit like this, but this is a very expensive impersonator.
For real. Holy
Yeah, but
cow.
yeah, he's my guy, man. Been, for years, and we talk, if not every day, every 2 days, just about life and music in general, and our business stuff that we do. And he's just a great guy. And it's funny because all these rock festivals, me and Matt Pinfield had a great moment. We got to meet Sendog from Cypress Hill.
Yeah.
And me and Matt Pinfield are backstage talking to him, and Matt says, hey, Tim's one of like Billy Gibbons' best buddies and business partners. And Sendog goes, Billy calls me by my real name. I don't even know how he knows my real name. I don't know what Sendog's real name is, but I immediately had this visual of like Billy walking into a room with all these rappers, and Billy's like, hello, Robert. Hello, William. But I told Matt Pinfield, I said, Billy's the rock star's rock star. And he goes, dude, you're exactly right. Any rock star on planet Earth, if you mention Billy Gibbons, they're just like, oh my God. Like they flip out. It doesn't matter, from Dave Grohl to Cypress Hill to Jerry Cantrell to anybody. Like Billy is the godfather of rock and that space, and it's just wild. So I definitely, when I go into rooms where I don't know people, I'm like, hi, I'm friends with Billy. And they're like, no shit, come on in. I definitely name drop a little bit on that one.
Hey, you might as well use it if you can, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah. And it helps that we look alike. If you look at photos of him from back in the 70s and 80s, we got it going on.
There you go. Did he have any influence on you doing the rock record with Savage? Did he have any like tips for you or anything like that?
I mean, I've always just been in his corner and listening to his music since I was a kid, and I'm definitely deeply rooted in his music. And that was kind of the interesting thing when I went to, really turned in and leaned into this rock stuff, is like I also looked at who's taking me under their wing. And it's, years with Billy, meeting Dave. I mean, all these rock stars just come into my life and grab me. And, people in my camp are like, look at your friend base. Who do you think you are as a person and a musician? I'm like, yeah, I know. And they're like, who did you grow up listening to? And I'm like, yeah, I know. So yeah, we talk a lot. He loves the Savage song. He's actually designing a Savage custom guitar right now from a custom builder. And he's putting the logos on it, and it's gonna be pretty sweet. So he's building me a guitar right now, and he's very into my wardrobes. He'll call me and be like, what did I see you wearing on stage last night, young man? And I'm like, oh no.
That is awesome. That's fantastic.
But he doesn't care. He'll give Matt Sorum wardrobe advice. He will walk in and give any rock star of any level wardrobe advice. And it's the funniest shit ever to see people's faces. And he's like, that was good, but I don't like your outfit.
I love that. I love that. That's fantastic. Who knew? Billy Gibbons, a fashionista, man.
Hey, he's a sharp dressed man. He knows what he's doing.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is. Well, hey, the new record, Savage, coming out July 12th. All the pre-order information, everything is on your socials, Tim Montana. As far as like touring goes, you're out with Bush this summer. Any plans on doing headline dates maybe in the fall or sometime next year?
Probably next year. We're gonna roll this year and support Savage and go out with some of these bigger rock bands just to get some audience familiarity. And I'm excited, man. I get to give my all for 30 minutes. I'm like, oh God, if I have to headline, I'm gonna have to play 2 hours. I can't be in bed by 10. Jesus.
Get to play for 30 minutes and then watch Jerry, Candlebox, and Bush the rest of the night. That's not too bad of a gig, huh?
Yeah, I'm just gonna be sitting there in awe. And I could say every time I've opened for ZZ Top, I'd always sit side stage. I don't care if it was show 50 or show 4. I'm just a kid at school every night, just watching. So.
Absolutely. That's fantastic. Well, Tim, thanks so much for your time today. Really appreciate it. And looking forward to hearing everybody else hear the record and getting all those reactions out and everything. It's going to be cool.
Awesome. Thank you for your time, Ethan.
Thanks for listening to the VORTX Podcast. Catch Ethan inside the Vortex every Sunday night from 9 to midnight on Topeka's Rock Leader, V100.